Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of On the Beat, here with the post-game edition from the Cincinnati game this weekend. SU defeated Cincinnati 31-7. Here with my fellow beat writers Andrew John, Brett LoGiurato, back from the trip to Nippert Stadium. Just going to touch on the main topics of the game and just forecast SU moving forward to Louisville next week and with 4 games left in the season. But first things first, SU, of course, with the blowout win over Cincinnati for most of the game. It didn't feel that way, but I think the first thing we need to touch on is the numbers statistically were similar, but SU showed that they're a maturing team in a game where they took the most of the mishaps and mistakes that Cincinnati provided both offensively and defensively for SU. So I guess, guys, just what were your thoughts on the way SU kind of just did what they needed to in the situations they needed to, and just another game where they're moving forward, I guess, with just progressing in the Big East?
Yeah, I think it was an impressive victory, obviously. This was a team that a lot of people didn't think Syracuse could beat at the beginning of the season. Cincinnati is obviously not the same team that they were last year, and they were obviously minus Zach Collaros, but it was in Cincinnati, and this obviously sets Syracuse up nicely.
Yeah, since he outgained SU on offensively, but when SU's defense gave the offense opportunities, they were there to convert those opportunities into points, and that was the difference in this game. SU just capitalized on Cincinnati mistakes, and even though the stats weren't dominant in their favor, they came away with a very impressive victory.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a case in this game where, like you said, the statistics were the same. Claris's replacement there, Chaz Anderson, had a pretty good game. I think combined he had over 200 yards. He rushed for like almost 80 yards and threw for more yards than Ryan Nassib. But it was about the little mistakes, and SU being there for those little mistakes, whether it be Anderson's faulty kind of handoff there with Smith corralling that fumble, Bartholomew falling out in the end zone, and all of a sudden, boom, you're up 14-0, kind of like that. I think also time of that possession was in SU's favor. They had 17 of the first 22 minutes, I think, they held the ball, and then there was a stretch there from the second quarter to the third quarter where they scored 17 points in a very short amount of time. So it was almost the feeling where Cincinnati was kind of in the game throughout, but you knew it was just a little bit too much once they got up 14-0 there. But obviously, offensively for SU, it was a bounce-back game for Ryan Nassib and DeLon Carter in different ways. Carter coming back from the injury, Ryan Nassib coming back from a poor performance, especially to start the game against WVU. What did you see out of each of them?
Ryan Nassib had one of his best games of the season. Was spreading the ball around, and a lot of that is a credit to the offensive line, which has improved as the season's gone along. But also, it seems like this offense is really starting to click because they're moving the ball through the air and on the ground, and that's obviously the best way for this offense to have some success is get a little bit of both.
Nassib, I think, like you said, he wasn't the reason that SU won, but he took the mistakes from Cincinnati that the defense made them commit, and he took them and made them into points, and I think Nassib did what he had to do to get SU to win this game. He missed some big opportunities downfield, but on the little short passes especially, he was very efficient and moving the chains, and that led to extended runs of time of possession for SU. As far as DeLon Carter, I think it's expected at this point, what he's doing, and not an especially flashy game for him. 100+ yards is good, but no touchdowns there. But he's the guy that he's their workhorse. He keeps moving the ball for SU and keeps their offense on the field, keeps them in control.
Yeah, I think we saw it last week with Nassib, and again it was this week with Nassib, which we saw that he's willing to do what needs to be done for this team and knows his role and isn't willing to kind of overstep it. And I think we saw it again out of Carter this week too. I mean, we calculated the numbers there, and obviously with the QB and running back, they're going to have similar numbers to this. But to have almost 90% of just the yards gained be included by or just responsible by both Nassib and Carter shows how vital they are to the offense. But I think they're both entering into roles much like the offense and understanding what management is. Doug Marrone has instilled that so well into this team, and it was just on display again, especially all the way around from Nassib. He had no deep balls against one of the worst passing defensive teams in the country, which might, to a lot of people, which might be a red flag. But I think it was more so knowing what he needed to do. Again, the offensive line and in our coverage, we're gonna hit that hard. Again, it's just really maturing, and they're providing Ryan Nassib with tons of time back there to make a lot of plays, especially in the early going when he had, I think, those 7 or 8 completions to start the game. it was like literally he had all the time in the world to find the seam, to find the player. And then DeLon Carter, he's also coming back from the injury, and honestly, I think he looked a little like he had a little bit of a gimp out there, just a tad. But he is one of the better running backs in the Big East, and he's shying away from the complete star role. But I think it's something where Marrone has instilled in this offense really what management is, and everyone is doing their own kind of little, I guess, little way of managing the game and what they need to bring to the table, sort of a little niche that each of them have. But other than that, moving forward, 4 more games. What do we expect to see next week at home? They come back against Louisville. They're no longer on the road needing to win these road games like they have. What are we expecting out of them against Louisville moving forward?
I think Louisville is probably the toughest game they have left on the schedule. And coming into the season, obviously, that's something that not a lot of people expected. But, Louisville really took Pitt to the wire this weekend and has really played above expectations. So I think that they'll really give Syracuse a challenge. But I think as far as the 4-game stretch goes, I think that Syracuse really has a chance to win 3 or even all 4 games. I think that there's a very good chance that could happen.
Yeah, coming into this past 4-game stretch in which the Orange went 3-1, there were a lot of questions, especially about the schedule early on. And I think this is a team that has answered those questions, going 3-1 in the toughest stretch of their schedule. And I think, especially the past couple weeks, this is a team that's really hit its stride. And, I think momentum is on their side. I think they can definitely, like you said, win 3 out of these next 4 games at least. And finish the season with probably 9 wins. So
yeah, 9 wins for this SU team. I know none of us three would have expected it this past summer. But again, we mentioned that schedule. I know at the beginning of the year, the schedule was the thing that everyone was harping on. That really didn't give fans and pundits, I guess, a look into how this team would truly play. But now that it's playing out, the schedule is almost setting up SU where they had a lot of lessons learned here in this little 4-game stretch where they went 3-1, which not a lot of people expected. But now they're entering into another 4-game stretch against overall, I think, 4 weaker teams, where they could be just taking that next step and trying to win all 4 of these games and really getting to at least number 2 in the Big East, securing that. So it'll be interesting. The schedule's set up kind of well for this team and building momentum, and I think they're just entering into that kind of last third here, and it'll be interesting to see if they can just keep up the way, I guess, just the feel about just the management over kind of being the main theme for SU in all the games that they're playing. So we'll see how that shapes up, and we'll see what Doug Marrone has to say about it tomorrow. But other than that, that's it for now. Be sure to check back in tomorrow's print edition of the Daily Orange and also online at dailyorange.com for our complete coverage from Cincinnati. And be sure to check back all week this week as we'll have your coverage leading up to the Louisville game as she's coming back home next Saturday. And be sure to check out our next On the Beat video, which will be up online prior to next Saturday's game. For Andrew and Brett, for another edition, thanks guys.